Hi, Rachel.
Djimon
Your
Staz. It
glasses are
is.
dope, by the way.
Oh, thank you so
Fantastic.
much.
And they
Oh, I already love
bedazzled.
this interview. It's already my
Yes.
Your
favorite.
hair,
Everything. Loving
everything.
it.
You look
Well,
like a thing out of our movie, actually.
Yeah, you could absolutely play in Rebel Moon. Fantastical enough,
Yeah,
for
call
sure.
me.
yeah.
Call me Zach. Well, that would be very exciting because I had an amazing time when I saw the film last night, and
Great.
I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it today because I
Great.
feel like it does the thing that I love most in sci-fi, where it's sort of this Trojan horse, where we talk about like real sociopolitical things, but in a fun and disarming kind of way. And
Yeah.
I think that definitely stands out with the character of General Titus. Like he starts off, his backstory is he was kind of like the weapon of the empire. And he changes in that he becomes a weapon against the colonizers. And I'm curious for you, is that a theme that resonated for you? And can you talk a little bit about
For
that?
Mm.
sure. It's a theme that resonates loudly for me. Growing up, being born in Africa, been raised in Europe, and now living my life in somewhat in America, the organic nature of the story was so relevant and speaks so much volume about our you know our reality, right? The geopolitical tentacles that have been literally pushing and holding the continent of Africa back all these centuries is quite loud in this story. And so that was my direct connection. If anything, that was the one thing that I hung on to, when I joined the team.
I mean, it's such a fantastical story, but that's what I'm saying. It's grounded in things where I was like, oh, I recognize this, I recognize
Right,
this.
right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's true of your character as well, Stas. Like you know, Tarek is he stands out a little bit, right? Like everybody's kind of like sci-fi futuristic, and he is much more connected to nature. And to me, and this could be my foil hat, I don't
No,
know,
no.
but he felt very much like he was speaking to kind of the often forgotten um uh victim of colonization, which is like nature
Hmm,
itself. Is
hmm.
that something that you thought about, or you and Zach talked about, or you have
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
about?
yes and no, but what I will say that I completely agree with is there was this thing that Charlie said recently that humans are kind of doomed to destroy themselves. This idea, right? And I think Tarek represents the antithesis of that. The last connection. And that's something. His people and from Samandrai, like the world that he's from, where like without telling you too much, they're very much rooted in connection to the earth. It's a symbiosis versus working against the earth, which is often what we're doing here. And despite, and that's a very, really interesting observation. Thank you. I hadn't even thought of that in the way you just did. But I think this story itself is a conversation about that. We're looking at a point where we live in a galaxy where grain is the highest currency. How many planets have we? It's almost a conversation like how many planets do we have to destroy until we learn that we can't do it this way. And then there's definitely this conversation going on here within this movie. But as you said, what's wonderful, because it's truly about the worlds and the beauty of these worlds and the diversity of these worlds and the characters itself, that message isn't rammed down our throats. And sometimes it should be, but I think we are more receptive sometimes when it is done in a way that's palatable. So I think that's why this is going to work in that way, and people are going to resonate with it because it's done in such a fashion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, like I said, that's why I love genre filmmaking so much. So, beyond, I guess for you personally, each of you, beyond just being entertained and falling in love with the characters in the world, is there something that you hope audiences do take away from the experience of seeing the film?
Sure. I mean, one being the fact that there's an underlying message about the carelessness uh, of the earth treatment, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, and also, of course, kind of like I said, that the underlying message about the indoctrination of the continent of Africa.
Hmm.
Um,
And for myself, I'll quote two people from this production. I'll start with Djimon, and I'll butcher it again, Djimon, but I
Please
will
go ahead.
try. The
The journey
The journey of 1,000 miles starts
with
with one,
the one,
with one
the
step.
first,
With the
one
first
step.
step, with the first step. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and this is kind of a kind of a theme across all of our characters. When on this road to redemption, is just that. And I think it's the idea that it all starts in one step, and then you just keep putting a step in front of the other, keep a foot in front of the other. And I think that's a wonderful thing that plays in most of our archetypes and most of our. And the second thing is something that Charlie said. Again, I'll just quote greater people than myself. It's way easier. And it is the line between good and evil runs evenly through the center of every man and woman and human. And
Ugh, I
this
love
is
it.
this is this is a conversation about. I mean, we look at Titus, who started on the wrong side of history and ends up trying to, at potentially the cost of his own life, be on the right side. And it's an interesting conversation about how complex we are as human beings. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I cannot wait to see how the dialogue continues in part two.
yes,
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat
thank
with
you
me
for the
both
lovely
today.
questions, and thank you for just looking.
I mean, same.
Have a
Have a
lovely
great
evening. Thank you so
day.
much for your time.
Bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.